everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Winging It F1 podcast. For the first time ever, I've got a headset thanks to Eurosport, and for only, I think, the third or fourth time, I'm with just Adam Dickinson. Unfortunately, Freddie can't be here. He's a little bit too busy with his Brands Hatch job, I think, or he's just a bit tired, like we all are. But I'm with Adam. It's absolutely boiling this week. I think we might have some heated debates as well after talking about some stuff before the podcast. How are you doing, Adam?
I'm good. Does this mean we're sponsored by Eurosport now?
Well, I highly doubt.
I guess we're financially supported by them in some way. So
yeah,
I think this means yes, we are.
We're sponsored by Eurosport and Total Motorsport, the two best companies in the world.
There we go.
Isn't that right, Adam?
It is. Yeah, I can confirm that. It's been extremely hot. I'm in a Chicago Cubs baseball jersey because it was the whitest, coldest thing that I thought I owned. So we hopefully.
I can think of other white cold things, but moving on.
Well, okay, a fridge, but I can't wear that. So I guess I could, but I can't have it plugged in and wear it at the same time. That'd be the issue. But enjoying. I had a great time watching the Austrian Grand Prix yesterday. I had a great time throughout the whole weekend watching all the different parts of the Grand Prix weekend. So I'm looking forward to discussing that.
Yeah, so we'll get onto the format towards the end because me and Adam completely disagree, and I don't see how any of us is going to win each other over. So
it's really a pointless. And anyone listening to this is just, you've just said there's an absolutely pointless conversation at the end of this. But let us know who you agree with afterwards if you make it that far.
It'll be me. First, we're going to talk about the race, Adam. Charles Leclerc finally won his first race in the Australian Grand Prix in April. His first race win, not starting from pole position as well. He really needed that, didn't he, to reduce the deficit now to 38 points in the championship to Verstappen.
Yeah, I think you could just see at the end how much it meant to him, and it still felt like Ferrari were making hard work of it. I think actually, their strategy was the right one, but it just kind of felt like they were still overcomplicating it, or that it just felt like it was waiting for something to go wrong, to be honest. So I think psychologically, but didn't go catastrophically wrong for Leclerc. So I think psychologically it's a huge boost for them. They would have liked to get the extra 3 points on Verstappen and not have Sainz go up in flames at the end, but I think it's promising the pace they showed, and Red Bull were just a bit kind of nonplussed. Horner said afterwards that they just couldn't figure out the tyre degradation and that it was different on Sunday to the rest of the weekend. So, just kind of Red Bull not being able to get the car working when it really mattered, and Ferrari were. And, I kind of thought, given Verstappen and Red Bull's record at the Red Bull Ring, that, it might be quite a tough weekend for Ferrari, but they've come out well, and I think it kind of promises decently for France, and the championship's back on. If he hadn't won before the summer break, that would have been really depressing.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, if he hadn't won before the summer break, he probably would have been 60, 70 points behind. I don't think they did overcomplicate it. I think they had the pace to win with either a 1 or 2 stop, at least with Leclerc. Sainz maybe, needed that 2 stop to attack Verstappen, which we never saw in the end. But I think, like you said, Adam, they had the tyre degradation. Leclerc was very confident as well at the end of the sprint race, saying that, we can get them the next day, which I initially thought was, well, surely Verstappen was holding back as well, but it looks like Ferrari had a bit more in hand. And I think what this race has told me in the last few races, actually, is that Ferrari and Red Bull, a bit like Mercedes and Red Bull last year, have got pretty as equal as you can get for F1 cars. And it's just coming down to the setup and finding the tyre, trying to work out how to get the most on the tyres and the tyre wear. And I think it's just coming down to setup and the driver on the day, I think. And this time Ferrari got everything right, and they had, well, pretty much a car that was running absolutely brilliantly. So I think that is what the difference was, really.
I think so. It's going to be quite a weekend to weekend situation, and I think that's nice. It's good for it to have that, and I don't really see anyone being able to consistently get into that. I know Mercedes are kind of looking better, and Toto was actually saying they were kind of faster again than they kind of expected to be compared to where they were at Silverstone. But it's going to be those two for the majority of the rest of the season, I think. So.
And Leclerc as well. I think he's had 5 races where he hasn't done anything wrong, but the team or the car has let him down, and he probably hasn't driven any differently to how he has over the past 5 races. He just this time the car didn't break down, and he got the strategy right. Even at the end with the virtual safety car, Ferrari did pit him, unlike Silverstone. So, I think it is championship on. I think, yeah.
Yeah, I think with Leclerc, maybe the only thing, he did go for some quite gutsy moves. I think in the end, he was almost surprised at how easy it was to overtake Verstappen. I know I was watching, but the dive up turn 3, I can't remember which time that was that he passed him, but it was just, coming for a long way back and something that I didn't expect. I don't know. It's kind of hard to say whether he would have raced like that earlier in the season, and I don't think it's a bad thing, but I think you could see kind of even within the race, let alone post-race, how much it really meant to him and how, it was just, to him, it was so important to get it. And, he was going for some really, moves that it took a lot of skill and accuracy to pull off, and he did that. But, it wasn't a lunge or it wasn't a dive bomb, but it was just, really, high pressure move, and he made it work. So, yeah, props to him.
It was helpful that I think Verstappen kind of knew he couldn't really win. He wasn't, a full-on defensive Verstappen. I think maybe for a couple laps in the first stint it was, but the second and third overtakes were quite, a lot easier than they could have been, I think. But still.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's kind of, that made it easier, but I guess Leclerc didn't know that, especially the first go around when they're racing. I think he won't have known that Verstappen would have had that mindset.
Yeah, I agree with that. Carlos Sainz, though, it would have been a Ferrari 1-2 sure. I mean, we might have had a pretty good scrap between Verstappen and Sainz because Sainz didn't quite have the same pace as Leclerc. It's just reliability. Ferrari have to get on top of it, don't they? Because even if they're going to win races, great. But then if they're going to lose 18, 25 points, just because of a problem, they're not going to win the title. This time it was Sainz who had the misfortune.
Yeah, they just can't. They just can't kind of run losing out like this, and it just shows that they're still there. It's not kind of despite all the kind of positivity of Leclerc's win and obviously being the dominant. Well, the Verstappen was up there until he got damaged, but kind of the Silverstone kind of. It was a missed opportunity for them where they're at the front again, and it kind of feels like it's a bit back to square one where they've had these 2 races where they've been at the front and leading the race for large periods, but there's still just that kind of spectre looming in the background that they can't rely on their car. That's what reliability is at the end of the day. They can't trust their car fully to get through every race weekend, and that's not you just, like you say, you can't win the championship like that. And yeah, I think if they can, survive till the summer break and then take they really, really need to be on top of it by the time we come back after the summer break, because otherwise, like you say, they're just not going to be competitive over the season.
Yeah, and I think Ferrari have had, so have Red Bull. Ferrari have had a car to win pretty much every race this year, apart from 2 or 3 at most, maybe, just like Red Bull. Yeah, they've only won, Sainz has won 1, hasn't he? And Leclerc's won 3. So 4 out of 11.
11. Yeah.
So, there we go. The marshals are a bit slow getting to the car, weren't they, Adam? And Sainz himself, I think he was trying to stop the car, but then it was rolling back down the hill, and then he had to jump out because the flames were getting quite bad. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, I was shouting to do, I don't know, living in Sheffield, then you kind of get used to parking on hills. I don't know. I was shouting at the TV for him to steer into the wall, but I think under the pressure, then he was remarkably calm. But yeah, the stewards, it was just a bit off. Like, I don't know whether they must have prepared. Given, not surprised that it's on a hill. It's I just don't. I would have thought they'd be kind of prepared for that, and like you say, they were slow. They came with the fire extinguisher, then went back with the chalk, and there's only one person kind of jumping on it first, and yeah, it just seemed disorganized and not. I know there's kind of very strict regulations on when marshals can go on track or not, but like it just didn't. It just didn't seem planned well enough, really. And it's kind of lucky, really, that Sainz was able to get himself sorted and get out the car, because there could have been a car rolling back. If it had been another few seconds, there could have been a car rolling back, even if he got out, a car rolling back towards the track on fire. Like it's not just Sainz getting out. It's being able to control that. So it's not kind of an incident that I can remember seeing before, where a car parks up on the hill and starts rolling back. So but it's definitely a wake up call for every other circuit to look at any runoff areas or marshal post where that could be a problem, to just make it clear that that's what you need to do.
Yeah, and if you leave a fire for too long, sometimes it can start exploding bits of the car, and I know that doesn't happen as much these days because of what the fuel is and stuff like that, but it could have, like you said, got quite dangerous. And I was surprised it wasn't a safety car as well, because with a fire, I kind of think Andy was in like the firing line of the braking zone. Like I thought there would have been a safety car, to be honest.
I don't know. I don't think, because it is so far off the track, and even even though it's in the braking zone, you don't kind of get the drivers are aiming more to the right of the corner as they're going in, I think. So yeah, it didn't surprise me that much. I don't think there was that much wrong with it. Being a VSC,
giving safety cars out for a lot less, though, I feel like, and they had a vehicle, I presume, to move the car as well. So but I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't see them moving. I didn't see them moving.
Had to have a vehicle, sure.
But it could have been on the other side of the fence.
Possibly,
yeah. I don't know. Without seeing it, I can't say. But I didn't. Yeah, it was just so far away from the track that I didn't really think it kind of. I didn't see any kind of immediate danger, and it is VSC. They're going slower anyway, so.
Fair enough. And we are at the halfway point of the season now. Is there anything else you want to add on this fascinating Ferrari Red Bull battle, Adam? I wouldn't say it's finally poised, because Verstappen does have a nice lead, but I think there's enough there for us to say that a lot can change. We've still got 11 races to go. It could be close if Ferrari get things right.
I think it seems to be finally heating up, which is, I don't know. I think because the stakes are raised. Obviously, early in the season, you've just got so many races to fix things if they go wrong, and it's. I think last year was a bit of an outlier, but it's not. There's just not kind of the same stakes on Australia or Saudi Arabia. Whereas now, like you say, we're at the half point of the season. We've got 11 races to go. So. There's just a bit more kind of jeopardy now when teams know where they stand, and particularly Ferrari and Red Bull know where they stand. And now Ferrari know that they need to be, aggressive. They know that they need to beat Red Bull at the majority of races here on in. So I think that's, like I said with Leclerc, I don't think it was kind of bravado or, kind of desperation in a negative sense. But I do think Ferrari are going to have to be desperate now, because they can't afford to mess around if they're going to win the championship. You've got, in a season this length, then, you do have a kind of grace period where things can go wrong and you can recover from it. But Ferrari have used theirs up. So, I think we might finally start to see it heat up, and there's the kind of inter-Ferrari battle as well. And that's just kind of exploded out of nowhere, really, at least to my knowledge. And I think that's as exciting. No, that's had more fireworks.
It could be the downfall. That is. I wrote a piece for Total Motorsport. They need to back Leclerc. They need to strategy. Everything needs to go towards Leclerc. Like, Sainz is not in the title fight, and they just need to. And Leclerc is generally faster as well. So, but I don't think they will. I don't think Matteo Binotto is got that character to. I think he doesn't want to upset Sainz, and I think Sainz's ego as well. He's less likely to play second fiddle, so I think that could be a bit of a problem as well.
Yeah, I think that's kind of, in some ways Sainz is a bit too good. He's a bit too talented for kind of the role that they signed him for, I guess. And yeah, it's, I think it's already hurt them at Silverstone, and as good as Hamilton was at Silverstone,
even in the sprint on Saturday, like they were fighting like crazy the first few laps. I think Leclerc was saving his tyres, but instead of Sainz doing the same, he just thought, "Oh, I'll use this chance to attack him."
Exactly. I don't. They just. It's a situation with a really easy fix. I guess you don't know kind of what promises or what contractual kind of conditions they've made to Sainz, but I think that's what I mean. It's like now there's kind of this is coming into play, whereas at the start of the season you can say, oh well, we're just letting them race and seeing how the championship plays out. Now the championship has played out, and Leclerc's even after all his bad luck, he's closer to Verstappen than Sainz. So I just think. Yeah, I think that's kind of a really interesting component that I didn't expect to see at the start of the season, and obviously goes without saying that Red Bull don't have to kind of deal with, to be honest. And Perez has got a win for the season already, so it's not he's happy. So yeah, I think it's kind of added another component that I'm excited about.
Definitely. Yes, we will talk more, of course, about the title battle as the season goes on, because there will be a title battle. Just depends how long it goes on for. Mercedes, a bit of a reality check for them after Silverstone, I think. They were miles ahead of the midfield, but then they were some miles behind Red Bull and Ferrari. But of course, Hamilton would have, I think once Hamilton was in that kind of no man's land, he just turned his engine down and just coasted home, to be honest. So they're not 30 seconds off, they're probably close to 15 seconds off or something like that. But that said, Austria has never really suited them before, so it's not an awful weekend. It's just especially after the crashes they had as well.
No, I think I think it is. I mean, like you said, they've not got a great track record at Austria, and to be honest, I do think they could have been in a factor in the battle for pole position. I certainly think Hamilton could have beaten one of, if not both, of Sainz and Perez. And I think he could have at least beaten Perez, and they are kind of being a factor in the race at the front at points. And, I think there was, I can't back this up, but I know one of the journalists asked Toto in the press conference and kind of said in his question that Lewis was lapping at the same pace as the leaders at one point in the race. So, it's there. And I think, they've, since Silverstone, they've kind of really definitively distanced themselves from the, I don't even know if there is a midfield this year, but kind of, the pack behind Red Bull and Ferrari. And I would see this as quite positive, to be honest. It's a lot worse than it could have been when you have two cars going to the wall in qualifying. And there's just...
I can't remember the last time that's happened. When has the two cars on the same team crashed in the same segment of qualifying? Never mind the whole hour, but the same segment. I cannot remember that happening in any motorsport series. Never mind as F1. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I don't...
I mean, for Hamilton to make a mistake, in itself, and then Russell, it was just crazy.
It just looked like a kind of gust of wind caught him, or something. But he had something kind of unexpected, and then corrected straight into the wall. It's I'd be pretty positive if I was Mercedes. I think they would have had an easy fourth and fifth. They've ended up getting a third because of Sainz easy fifth and sixth, and they've ended up getting a third because of misfortune for others. But that's just kind of it's worked out well for them, and I really think they can be competitive. And
Silverstone, wasn't it? Hungarian Grand Prix, Lewis Hamilton. Watch out! I'm calling it already. I'm hungry.
Hungarian. I think
Hamilton is going to win.
I'm feeling Suzuka. It's way too far, away though. But I don't know. I just really see them kind of being competitive, and
I think they'll win a race. I'm quite, like I said, like after Silverstone, I said 90% sure or something like that. That's still how I feel now. So,
and as well, I think we're finally seeing kind of representative running from Hamilton, because he had kind of bad luck, and he was just struggling to get on top of the car and find its limits. And we kind of finally, Hamilton seems to have made that jump, and it's now. I'm really looking forward to qualifying at Paul Ricard, and hopefully there'll be dry qualifying with the new upgrades, with both Hamilton and Russell kind of having a clean session for the first time that we'll have seen. So I'm really looking forward to that, because I do think there can be, I think this will give us a kind of indication of where the two drivers are at, and if Hamilton is where he's kind of stacking up to Russell now, he's kind of found this new lease of life.
Yeah, and with Hamilton, new regulations as well. He does take time to get into it a little bit. He's obviously still very, very good, like 9 out of 10. But in 2019, I remember Bottas was challenging him early in the season. So in 2017 as well, probably one of his worst starts for an F1 season in the turbo hybrid era. So, and this year with the new regs, I think he's taken time to get used to the tyres and the new floors and everything else that goes with it. And now, like you say, Adam, he's starting to gel. He's had no bad luck, so we're finally seeing the best of him. So we shouldn't be too surprised at that. And anyone who was doubting him, just like, why?
How much do you think there's any worry with the fact that they were kind of bottled up behind the Haas for so long on the sprint race, and for a bit of the
I
Sunday?
think it's just the top speed. I think that is their biggest weakness right now. And
right.
I think it is drag. Is it drag or power?
I think it's a combination.
Yeah,
I think
Wolf
said
it's
a combination.
And you look at Aston Martin, they're not exactly fine on the straights either.
Yeah.
So, I think top speed is the biggest problem. But that said, at Silverstone, they were matching Red Bull and Ferrari. So, not sure. Maybe the altitude as well. I forgot the Red Bull ring is at altitude. The Mercedes power unit maybe doesn't like it, because in the past, we've seen teams like Honda and Renault, when Red Bull used those engines, were a lot closer at altitude track. So that could be a factor as well. But positive weekend for Mercedes. Hamilton doing very well to get a podium after the crashes in qualifying. Shall we talk about Mick Schumacher and Haas next? 6th place. He got his first points in Silverstone, of course, but then he's backing it up. And that's what we keep banging on about. In sport, you got to back it up. And Schumacher is doing it. So this is brilliant news.
Yeah, I think so. And it's not just driving fast in a vacuum. He's got the confidence. He raced Hamilton really well, and knew the limits of the car, and knew kind of where Hamilton was, and that's just something that I can't see him doing as well earlier in the season, where he just seems to rediscovered. I don't know, just rediscovered. I guess a bit of his driving instinct or something like that. Because he's been showing really well, and it was a good weekend for Haas overall, to be honest. And I just think fantastic from Schumacher, and I don't really see a reason why it would stop, or it seems
in F2 once he got to this stage, just carried on and won the title. It's exactly the same thing here, and to be honest, it has surprised me. I am surprised that he has got to this level, because it's so easy when you're low on confidence after his crash in Monaco, when he had a big crash there. But then since then, he's been absolutely flying. So fair play to him. And Magnussen, yes, this is his comeback year, and he's not a top driver, but he's still a very good, benchmark to put yourself up against. And Schumacher's done very well. So, and I think he's only going to get more confident as well. So,
well, I think
it's great.
It's a real opportunity for us to turn the season around. I mean, again, this goes back to kind of what we were talking about earlier. It's such a long season that, yes, they've kind of, missed an opportunity, maybe, to maximize what they could get out of the season. But, it's certainly not over. And, I think 4th or 5th in the championship could be on. I think, there's not another team that's, I don't know, just looking that strong.
The thing that confuses me with Haas is they've had, I think, out of all the teams, they've had the least development or fewest upgrades. They've barely put anything on the car, yet they haven't really gone backwards. I don't know how they're doing it. It's weird to me. So, like Alpine are bringing upgrades every single race. Williams, we've got a brand new car. Aston Martin have brought loads of upgrades as well. Yet Haas are still pretty much with them and ahead sometimes. I don't know how they're making that work. I just cannot give a reason why for that. And I can usually give a reason why for most things in F1. It's just weird.
Oh, we'll find out later. But I think I don't know. And the only thing I can think of is this team's, either they're not bringing the right upgrades, or they're still kind of struggling to understand them, or still not got. I mean, Williams brought kind of a B-spec car to Silverstone, so it's not, I guess, been as long for them. But
the Albon was crunched into the wall.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So, I think it's kind of, we'll just have to see kind of as it goes on, especially again after the summer break, kind of whether teams, whether Haas bring upgrades or whether other teams make a step forward and leave them behind if they don't. But I think it kind of, I guess in the last two races they've been on a good groove, and that's the only thing you can say is that they're understanding the car and what they want to do with it, and it's bearing fruit at the moment.
Yeah, and one last thing on Haas for me, the strategy team. I love banging on about strategy, especially when teams get it wrong. Haas have got it wrong the most, as I've said quite a few times this year on the podcast, but they got it spot on again, just like Sills. I can't remember Silverstone that much, but I think the last couple of races, the drivers and the team, everything's gone smoothly, so you can't ask for more. Alpine, they didn't have a smooth weekend. Now, I think this went unnoticed on the coverage because Alonso, so we started at the back, came through the field really well, even though he got put out in traffic with his pit stop and stuff. And then when the virtual safety car came out, he had to pit, and then he had to pit again on the next lap. Now, they're saying it was because of vibrations. I think, allegedly, the tyre wasn't fitted properly. The FIA have checked this, and they said there was nothing wrong. But it did seem a bit weird that he pitted on the very next lap. So instead of finishing 7th or 6th from last, I think he finished 10th in the end, or he dropped outside the points, but then he got himself back into the top 10 at the end. So, I think that was something that was missed on the coverage, but Alpine could have scored more. That said, Esteban Ocon did a good job to finish where he did. Have you got any comments on that, Adam?
No, I think I actually missed the Alonso thing. I think there's so much.
I think most, it wasn't shown on TV or mentioned at all by the coverage.
But it was from Ocon. It was great. He was in 5th or 6th the whole weekend in terms of the sessions, and he qualified there and stayed there in the race bar Perez overtaking him, and then took that position back. And I don't really, I know the Haas were kind of, there just wasn't really, besides Mercedes, there wasn't the pressure from behind. But I think, I don't know, I guess it just must be really frustrating for Alonso because he's seen what
he's only had about 3 or 4 clean weekends this year, like because of either strategy or the team, a bit like Leclerc actually. Like he's
or putting it in the wall in Australia.
Well, the team have let him down so much, or the car has let him down so much. It's so annoying because he's been miles better than Ocon for me this year, but he just hasn't had the point. The points don't show it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I've literally, I'm just realizing now, like I paid so little attention to the points tally outside of like the top, I don't know, 5 or so. But I think, I don't know. So it's a frustrating one for Alonso, but like he knows it's there. I really, I think he just needs one race for it to all come together, and he could, he'll get, a podium this season or something like that if he can just kind of get the chance, a bit, a kind of bit of misfortune ahead of him, and being able to just have a clean race and he'll be there. So it's frustrating for Alonso, but I think he just needs to keep plugging away because it's not, bar a couple of errors, it's not him, it's not on him. So
when we next talk about Alpine on the podcast, I'll find a list of all the strategy and reliability errors that Alonso's car has had this year, or the team, and I'll list them because I think people should know about this, but they don't, because they think Alonso's too old and should be an F1. But whatever. Are there any other drivers we want to talk about, Adam, before we get into some wider topics like
wider topics
and sprint races and that kind of thing? Because apart from that, Perez obviously with Russell, there was that incident there. Russell got a 5-second time penalty. Deserved or not deserved?
No, I don't think so. I think Perez really I think it was
a walking contradiction. You,
I think it was, coming in. Russell seemed to be, on the inside, and I just don't think Perez kind of gave him, I guess, the room that he needed. Or I just don't.
Can I just tell you this? 2 years ago, Albon and Hamilton. What do you think you said?
Oh, I know what I said. I think
okay.
that was wider on the corner though. That was kind of Hamilton washing out. This was Russell was really, if you go back and look, he is further to the right. So I think that's a difference. And it was a racing incident for me, but it's just one of those.
I'm going to contradict myself from 2 years ago as well, because I said the same as you with the Albon thing. That it was Hamilton's fault, but I think you're right, and I think Freddie brought this up. So this was our first ever race review podcast, by the way. This, so go back and watch it. Freddie at the time said that it's just that corner, like the angle of it, and it's downhill a bit, and no matter how much you turn, you're always going to go out a bit. And I think Freddie mentioned, if you really slow down, if the car on the inside, if you slow down a lot, you're guaranteed to lose the place because the guy on the outside has more momentum and can get on the throttle earlier. So, and the only way to stop that is by edging them out wide. But as we've seen this weekend, they're being really strict on forcing the car off the track rule. So, I think Freddie was onto something there 2 years ago. It is just that corner with the gravel there as well. It's just kind of, it's not impossible to defend, but it's a lot more difficult than normal just because of the way it is. And I think he's absolutely right.
Yeah, I just don't think it's
because Russell couldn't have done anything else, really.
No, that's what I mean. And to be honest, the move around the outside didn't work all weekend. It's not.
Yeah.
It's just kind of, it is really easy to defend against if you can keep alongside going down the straight, which obviously isn't easy, but if you can be any kind of front wheel to rear wheel or better going into the corner, then it is just easy to park yourself on the inside, and you just can't get enough of a run around the outside. I think it's too tight. So I agree with that, and it's just, I don't know. It's thankfully there's kind of plenty of other places in the track, and I mean even there's not, because getting the switch back on that corner, even if you're not alongside, but you take
on the wrong side for the next corner.
Yeah, so even if you kind of take, try and switch back, you don't get the run going into the next corner, and I think Hamilton did it on Schumacher in the race. I think, was there someone else? Maybe not, because you don't really see many overtakes through that whole sector, to be honest. But the corners are kind of, I don't think the corners in the sector are. I think you could carry a battle through there, but you just can't get. Yeah. Not many battles survive turn 4, so it's one of those. But I think Austria is a fantastic track. And, that's just
absolutely.
One thing.
For a track that effectively has 7 corners, it's absolutely
yeah.
It is fantastic. But it's probably the only corner on the whole calendar where I can think where we do get 2 cars going side by side. It's just really awkward because of how it is. I can't think of many other corners like that. But it's an interesting one. And track limits itself all weekend, Adam. There were lots of warnings, lots of black and white flags, lots of penalties, 5-second penalties as well. In the F2 and F3 there was a lot. F1, I think there was a few drivers getting it as well. I think there were 43 penalties, 43 track limits. What do you call it? Breakage of the rule.
Yeah.
43 times someone went off the track basically in the race, which is a lot. Are you a fan of that? It was a big talking point, wasn't it?
Yeah. No. It's not. No, I'm not a fan of it. It's just, I don't know. I can't. It's F1 drivers are really going to push the limit, and especially in this day and age more than any other. So I don't kind of know how to control it, and
well, the thing is, they've been using the system all year. It's just this track the drivers are more likely to go out wide because of the high speed nature of it, and like you can go over the exit curbs. Whereas track like Silverstone, it's only cops really, and snow perhaps. That's it. Whereas Austria's, there's probably two or maybe not. I don't know, it's just those last two corners basically where it's really tempting to go out wide and gain a lot of time.
But like, you know, they've got enough gravel traps as well. Like it's not, you know, there's kind of the risk there if you are, you know, if you're going kind of, you know, making full use of the curb and the bit beyond it. But, you know, there is a kind of jeopardy to it where, you know, as I say, there's a lot of gravel traps where if you go over then you're really in trouble, but it's just not, you know, drivers are just able to do it. So I don't really know kind of what, I don't know what the answer is.
I quite like the system. I quite like it. I think it's fair.
I think it's fair, yeah. It's just kind of, it's a bit of a shame. I mean, the F2 race was kind of, the feature race was hilarious, and you know the way the kind of penalty, you know, the way the podium was compiled after all the penalties came through. But yeah, I just, you know, I think, to be honest, like just the difference between F1 and F2, you know, the drivers are just better. They're more accurate and they're able to do it more without quite going over the limit. But yeah, it's, you know, it, as you say, the problem is that there's so much to be gained there. And I think that the application of the penalties is okay, but it's just not. It's just it's a bit annoying. It's a bit frustrating.
It's the only solution. They used to have those sausage curbs, didn't they? Remember? Yeah. But obviously, we've seen what happens with. I know those ones weren't as big, but we've seen with sausage curbs, you know, what they've done recently in motorsport with cars flying when they go over it. But at the time, it was the F1 drivers complaining, "Oh, if you go a bit wide, you hold front wing brakes and that kind of thing." Because that's why they got rid of them. So I think it is the only solution, unless you have every corner like turn. The two in the middle, one's gravel right on the exit, basically. Or like turn 4, one's gravel right on the exit.
Yeah,
that is the only other thing.
I mean, they have that at on the last set of corners, and it's not, I believe, anyway.
Gravel, not gravel's not right there. No,
Is it
that's
not?
why they're doing it. Not on the last two, no.
Oh, I didn't realise. Okay. Well, you know, there we go. But yeah, I mean, you saw it on the first lap with Sainz getting the better.
He should have got a penalty for that.
Yeah,
that's what Alonso complained about last year. That exactly the same. So I keep bringing Alonso up. I know it's just he's always in my head. Rent free. But like honestly, 2 cars went off the track last year and like overtook him off the track on the first lap. Didn't get penalised. Sainz basically does the same thing here, gaining momentum on Russell. It was Russell, wasn't it? Yeah, it was Russell. It wasn't even investigated. I'm just like, you can't be allowing that. Just anyway, yeah. Sorry, getting heated already, mate.
Well, that's a sign of things to come.
Now, let's get on to it then, Adam. Let's provide some context. Now, Adam's going to edit this. I don't know if he's going to put screenshots of our group chat to try and cancel me about sprint races. But if he is, then fair play. They're coming up right now.
You're overestimating the amount of effort and time I've got for this.
Hey, the amount of effort I've put into that 2-year birthday thing, and I'm to download and watch 12,000 episodes.
Yeah, I do owe a bit. So.
And tried to find something funny, which was really difficult because we're not funny. This is a serious podcast. But no, the sprint races. Me and Adam have already had a big debate about it. Adam doesn't mind them. Let's say I don't think he's necessarily for them, but he doesn't mind them. Whereas I'm just completely against them, basically. I don't know how we're going to go about this. Let me ask you this, Adam. Do you think, out of the 5 sprint races there have been, I don't know if you've seen them all, how many were good or exciting?
I think the 2 this season have been. I don't majorly remember the ones from last season. I don't remember that many qualifying sessions from last season either. So, I think, you know, I know the Silverstone last year wasn't great. I don't think the Monza one was fantastic, and I think the
Hamilton coming through.
So, but I've enjoyed both of them this season. I think you know, the Imola one was the advert for it, really. But, you know, this one, I enjoyed watching the Ferraris battle. I enjoyed the Lewis versus Schumacher and the 2 Hasses. I enjoyed that as well. Perez coming back through the field too. So yeah, I've enjoyed them. But I just enjoy. I enjoy watching F1 action as well. So yeah, I think the two this year I put forward as good races.
Okay, that's fine. That's your opinion. I think the Imola one, you're absolutely right, that was good. The one at the weekend, I still found it largely dull. But right, so if we're thinking about this is all about how to set the grid for Sunday's race. So do you think the sprint format is better than the usual format, normal format, to set the grid? Because I absolutely think no. To set the grid, it should be about qualifying, one lap pace. Who's putting everything on the line about that one lap. That's why teams compromise setups for it. Some drivers stand out more. That is how you should set a grid for a Grand Prix. It shouldn't be about having another mini race. That is my kind of take for it.
I agree and disagree. I think I disagree with you saying it's all about how you set the grid for the Sunday race, because I think it's not. It's about the race weekend as a whole and entertaining fans. So I don't think that's a fair comment to say. But no, I agree. I think I've seen some people calling for it to be a standalone event which awards points, which I think would have positives and negatives. But I'd be maybe happy to see them trial that.
The sprint should be just by itself.
Yeah.
So just have a half an hour race. That's it, and then go home.
Well, you get points from it, and then you come back on Sunday.
Are you telling me there's people who think the sprint should be on a Saturday or Sunday, half an hour, and that's it? That's the end of the F1 weekend.
No. So you have like qualifying.
Yeah, so you have practice, qualifying, sprint. That's it.
No, you have a race afterwards.
Oh right, that's what we've got now.
No, but the sprint doesn't set the grid. So you have qualifying, you have the sprint race. I've not kind of seen the ins and outs of where that could come from, or like where the grid. Would you have the same?
I genuinely thought you meant for a minute.
No.
Just have a half an hour race and go home. I was about to go. Oh, I am at home. I was about to leave my room if that was the case.
Leave home. I think I'd like to see that at one of them. I'd like to see them try that and see, have a play around with it. But yeah, I think it's not just the aim to set the grid, but in terms of, I'd rather see a kind of qualifying session start, set up the grid really.
So the normal format you prefer?
No.
You don't prefer the normal format?
Not as a whole. I prefer qualifying for. I think a qualifying grid is more representative, but saying you prefer the normal format is asking me if I prefer the whole setup. I don't think setting, it's
so
setting
you prefer
the grid.
The sprint format as a whole compared to the FP1, FP2, FP3 qualified format?
Yeah, not every race. I like having a mix, but I like it enough to think it's worth having the mix in there.
It's just boring, man. On the sprint, look, it doesn't work. It only works touring cars, and that's because it's super competitive. It only works if you've got a super competitive motorsport series. It barely works in F2. So it's because most sprint races in F2 are not fun. So it's never going to work in F1. It's boring. We should be seeing the very best of F1. And what you get in a sprint is lap one. And then after that, they all go into tyre saving mode. I went really northern then. Tyre saving mode. Yeah, I know. And then they're not willing to battle that hard, I don't think, because they're trying to conserve the car. It's not the very best of F1, and we should be seeing the very best of F1. That's what you get with the normal qualifying and then the race format.
I don't think it is boring. As I say, you said you enjoyed Imola, and I enjoyed Austria as well as Imola. So it's not, categorically, it's not just been a blanket sham. And a track like Austria, then I want to see racing at Austria. So I've said previously in this episode that I really like Austria as a track, and I enjoyed watching the racing. I don't do you not enjoy watching F1?
So why don't we have two sprint races on a weekend then?
Because there's a sweet spot. I enjoy watching F1, but I don't enjoy.
Have they found the sweet spot?
I think so. I think tweaking in terms of volume, I think you can tweak the way they go about it, and whether they make it a standalone event that doesn't impact the grid, or whether they put in strategy like you've said. But I don't, I think having an extra half hour of racing, I enjoy like that. I'm an F1 fan. I enjoy watching F1 racing, and having, I enjoy Friday qualifying as well. Having a meaningful event on every day of the weekends, I enjoy that. So again, I don't want to see everyone. I like F1 races, but I don't want to see one every single weekend. Like I don't get where this thing is. It's not, you don't give up qualifying. Like, you can still watch qualifying. Silverstone qualifying last year was absolutely fantastic in terms of the atmosphere, the drama. Just Friday night at Silverstone, absolutely bumper crowd. I think it was the first sellout crowd of 2 years or 1.5 years. And it was just a fantastic atmosphere. And I don't think you can say that it took away from that. And we saw how the sprint race is set up for the race.
Drivers can't even celebrate when they go fastest in qualifying. Like, look at Verstappen when he stole pole position from the Ferraris on the last lap after Sainz and Leclerc went quicker. They go to the team radio, and it's just nothing like qualifying, and I just don't like that.
Well, again, go back and watch Silverstone. You saw Hamilton celebrating, and it's not, it's drivers can celebrate. Yes, they don't celebrate as much as
Austria and Verstappen in front of his 20,000 Dutch fans stole pole on the last lap, and nothing.
Yeah, so it's not. So
it goes both ways.
Well, yeah, that's what you saying. Drivers don't celebrate is not. That's not absolutely true. It's some drivers have celebrated, some haven't, but again, you can tweak the format for that. Like having that is not a fundamental problem with having racing on a Saturday. You can have racing on a Saturday and keep the excitement of quality.
You shouldn't have racing on. You can't have I just don't like a short race in F1.
Do you not like F1? Like, why do you do this? Why do you not enjoy watching F1?
I enjoy F1, yes. I just don't like this sprint format.
Why?
Because the actual sprint race is dull. It's a procession. We don't see the very best of F1. And the other thing that annoys me is if a driver makes a mistake in qualifying, like Perez this year and in Imola, Sainz as well in Imola, they make a mistake and then they just recover back to the normal, or like towards the normal grid spot. And I don't think that's fair. You're just helping the bigger teams again, which F1 already does far too much of.
But then you get that jeopardy of them coming through. You saying that it incentivizes people to not be on the limit, not be racing
his way through in Brazil. Look how easy that was, because the cars are getting out of the way and they're not in the same fight. There's no jeopardy. It's hard. There's not much of jeopardy in the air because the overtakes are relatively easy.
Jeopardy. No, and then you get Perez. Perez makes it up to the front. What does he do? He hits Russell on the first lap, and then Perez is up.
Like be up towards the front.
We get more exciting races when drivers are up the front.
Yeah, but you should be punished properly for making a mistake.
So again, there you can tweak the format so that it's standalone. Like, it's not. That's not a fundamental. Again, this isn't a fundamental problem with the racing on the Saturday, and I don't think it's fair to say that all of them have been dull, and it's guaranteed that it will be a dull sprint race. So that's where it is. Yes, you get boring F1 races, you get boring sprint races, but it's not.
We didn't see Leclerc pushing in the sprint race, with his commentator saying at the end, we can get them tomorrow because he was holding back. That is a massive problem.
You saw him battling with Sainz. The Ferrari turned wheel to it again for the second time in 2 races.
Win, which is what it's all about. It's for the win. It's for whoever can stand at the top step. Well, there's no podiums in the sprints. That's a bad analogy. But
metaphor.
He should metaphor. There we go. Words. We should be seeing him pushing for the win, but we're not. He's just holding back because he knows they've got the proper thing on the Sunday, and that's just not right. That's not F1. That's not motorsport. That's not racing.
But then also, was he saving his tyres for that, or was he trying to come back? Because he did come back at the end. He just didn't. He never made it up to Verstappen.
Yeah, because he wasn't willing to push.
But he was pushing at the end, just not.
I'm not sure about that.
He did. Look at the gap between him and Verstappen. It closed from like 3 seconds to 1.5. Wherever it was when he was battling with Sainz, and then he pulled away and pulled closer to Verstappen, he just wasn't able to get close enough to make the final move, which is fair. But
it just doesn't add anything. The actual sprint race itself does not add anything.
But it adds a half hour of racing entertainment that you don't get. It's not
the Grand Prix longer. Add an extra half an hour.
Well, because you can have a sprint race instead. Like, why would you add more to the Grand Prix? And you don't get an extra event. You don't get an extra event. Like,
this is what a sprint format is. No, listen. This is like having a 30-minute football match on a Friday, stopping and then coming back and having the 90-minute match on the Saturday at 3 p.m. What is the point in that?
That's just not a good analogy.
Yes, it is, because they're both around 90 minutes, an F1 race and the football match. It's like having a first 30 minutes of a football match and then just carrying on the next day.
I fundamentally disagree. Just because they're the same length, it's not the same thing.
How's it different then? How's it different?
Because in a football match, you don't start on a grid. Like, you don't get anything. So what if you win?
You go 1-0 up, right? Let's carry on the next day from 1-0.
So, but it's just, do you get points from it? Like,
no, but you get an advantage.
Yeah, but you get points from a sprint race.
Okay, that's fine, but I don't think people really. That's the point of a sprint race. It isn't for the points, is it? And that's not what people really think about. I know I certainly never really think about the points when a sprint race is happening.
But I think it can. Again, like, it can be that if you put it out there, if you make it a standalone event, then the points are the main draw from it, and you can get drivers battling. Like, why would you not? If you're Leclerc, why would you not battle Verstappen for that? It's entirely different from a football or rugby match, because F1 is entirely different from football and rugby, apart from the race length. It's not like we're giving up a practice session. Like, it's not. People go, it's boring. Like, how many FP3s do you remember? It's not like, that was a fantastic FP3. I really.
By that logic, why don't we just have one practice session, then 2 qualifyings and 2 races on? Because then you get more racing action.
As I said, because there's a sweet spot. It's like triple headers. I like races, but I don't like triple headers, or I don't like having triple headers back to back. Like, you can get fatigued. I don't think adding an extra half hour of racing is getting fatigued.
I think you're ripping off the fans to give them a 20-minute processional race. It's a joke.
As opposed to what? If you're a fan, then you get to watch something on 3 days.
Qualifying on Saturday afternoon when it should happen.
Oh yeah, because fans don't like watching qualifying on Friday afternoon. Like, what's the difference in a day?
I'd say more people watch on a Saturday afternoon than a Friday afternoon. Yeah, 100%.
Then you can put it at Friday. Like, no, that's not people watch sport on Friday afternoon. What are you on about?
I'd say more people watch sport on a Saturday afternoon than Friday afternoon, 100%.
More people watch qualifying on a Saturday when it's on a Saturday. Like, I just seems really I don't get how you're ripping off the fans to have more entertainment and have entertainment on every single day rather than having it on 2 days.
It doesn't work. There's a reason other series that isn't touring cars don't use it. It's because it's awful.
But I just don't understand why you don't like watching racing.
There's a million other concepts that are better to set the grid that isn't the sprint race.
Well, again, you don't have to set the grid from it. This is we keep coming back to this.
What would you do? What would you do, Adam Dickinson, that you would change about the sprint format or race or whatever?
I think they're either put a few more points on for the winner and the podium, or maybe add a bit more of a deficit for the winner and make it a standalone event, or add strategy into it.
More points,
10, 8, 6.
Yeah, but the reason it's 8 is because it's 1/3 the points of a win and 1/3 the distance.
And it sets the grid. If you take away the grid element, then it's not losing the significance. It's already got more significance than a third of a Grand Prix because it sets the grid for the next day, as well as having the points. So if you take away the setting the grid, but you add a bit more points, you add more. You add more on the line for going for the win.
Okay, I get that. I'm still football comparison. Honestly, I don't see how it's not like having a 30-minute match on one day, and then
because
having
they are
90
just
minutes the next day.
so
That is exactly
different
what it is.
sports.
That is exactly what it is, though. It's like having a short match and then carrying on the next day. What is the point in that?
There isn't, because it's a different scenario. Like, why go? Let's talk about F1 because it is the Winging It F1 podcast. Like, why?
No, there's nothing wrong with a comparison. That is the only like.
There is something fundamentally wrong because it's in an entirely different sport. But all of your problems, all of the things you're saying is about it setting the grid. But that doesn't have to be. That's not the be all and end all.
My other problem is that I think they're generally boring, the sprint races. And I don't like how it helps the faster teams, the bigger drivers who make mistakes. And I don't like, just those things.
I think it's. I enjoy getting more F1 to watch. I don't think it's too much. As I've said, I don't want to watch every racing every weekend. I like the Tour de France. I don't want there to be a 3-week Grand Tour every month. Like, there is a sweet spot, but I enjoy.
Can't compare sports, mate. Can't be doing that.
Okay, well, I don't want to watch F1 every weekend then. But yeah, it's just having an event, having something to watch on every day. I like Friday afternoon sport. I like Friday evening sport. As I say, the Silverstone qualifying last year was fantastic. Might not work so well with COTA, where I guess it'll be in the middle of the. No, it'll be later. So that'll work as well. But having sport on Friday evening, I enjoy watching that. A lot of people that's why they have Friday night sport. That's why the Premier League plays games on a Friday. That's why Premiership Rugby plays games on a Friday. Because they know fans watch.
Friday at 3 p.m. or 4 p.m. when people are travelling back from work.
This race was, yeah. But the COTA won't be. Sao Paulo wasn't last year. Silverstone wasn't last year.
Yes, it was.
Silverstone wasn't. Silverstone was in the evening.
I think Silverstone was about 5
It was when the sun was setting.
Silverstone was about 5 p.m.
When the sun was set in Northamptonshire at 5 p.m. Not in June or July.
I don't know. We'll have to go back. Disclaimer. Whatever.
It's like that's why they have sport on Friday nights, because they know people watch it and people.
Well, why haven't they done that this year with Imola and Austria?
I don't know. Ask F1, but they will for Austin. Like, again, shift it a bit later. That's not.
I thought it was Brazil. Is it Austin?
I'm pretty sure it's Austin. Yeah,
I thought it was Brazil again. Whatever. At least we'd have to talk about it for 4 months.
But I mean, but regardless, it's the same thing. It will be the same time zone. So, yeah, I enjoy watching F1. I enjoy watching F1 on 3 days rather than 2 days when there's not. I don't want to watch like 5 hours of F1 each day, but having another event on Saturday to look forward to, I think that's a good thing. But why are you doing the podcast? Why?
I want to do it because I get to talk to you.
Oh, fair enough then. Yeah.
No, I enjoy F1, but it's just it's not the right way to go about it. It's just.
But
it doesn't work. There are better concepts out there that should be used rather than this. There's loads. Why can't we have a one-shot qualifying every now and then? That will be exciting. Why can't we have double headers, for instance, with like 2 qualifiers and 2 races? I think that will be fine as well. Formula E do that. Other motorsports do that. Why can't we, have see what happens if we just have a straight 60-minute or 30-minute qualifying session or something? Like, these concepts would be better than what we've got with the sprint race.
I mean, the sprint, we can have more of that. That's a problem with F1 management not putting more in. Like, having the sprint races you can like the sprint race but not like them as much as the others. I don't think some of those would be as entertaining as the sprint race.
If you don't like it as much as the others, why bother having it?
But you don't like it as much as it, but because then you can have more. Like, that's not a problem with the sprint race. That's a problem with other, like, them not trying other options. But the sprint race itself, this is what I mean. Like, you can, having it set to the grid for Sunday, that's an issue with the way it is now. But that's not a fundamental problem with having a half-hour race on a Saturday. Like, it's the same. These are wider problems that you're picking out. The only one that you have is that it's dull racing. And I think 2 of these races haven't been dull. I've enjoyed 2 of them. And yeah, 2 of them weren't great.
How can you say these are not dull? Yet you say like races like, what was it? I can't remember. There was just a race earlier this season. I think was it Miami or something? He said like, was it? I can't be Miami. It was a race where like he said, "Oh, it wasn't great that." The sprint races have been a lot worse than whatever that race was. I can't remember what it was. We've done too many of these bloody podcasts.
Yeah, that's the problem.
It's just like, it's just not. It's the only way it can be solved a bit, like partially for me, is to have a pit stop in it. That is the best, most simple.
Would you enjoy that?
I would like it more, yes, a bit more. I wouldn't like
would you objectively enjoy it? Because it's still like
it'd be better.
No, but would you enjoy it?
Yes, because the racing would be good.
Right. But then that still has the problems. That's still got the problems of people, shortchanging fans by giving them more racing or whatever you said. Like, it not being the way that qualifying sets the grid. It would still have the problems that you're coming up with. This is what I mean. I don't think a lot of what you're saying is a problem fundamentally with the idea of the sprint race. It's the way
I think
it's details.
The meaningful sessions should take place over 2 days.
Why?
I just think that's the way it should be.
Why?
I don't know. That's just my feeling about it. I think 3 days is a little bit too much. I think
3
for meaningful sessions.
3 3 days having an extra half hour is too much.
No, it's because all the build up and like there's far too much build up and hype and everything just for a little half an hour Saturday race.
I do agree with that. I don't think F1 needs to be hyping it up the way it is.
If they had qualifying on Saturday early afternoon than the sprint in the evening, I would prefer that.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure I would, but or you could. I don't know. You could have a sprint. Yeah, if you have one-shot qualifying, you could have a sprint race that sets the order to go in one-shot qualifying or something. I think there are ways to workshop around it. Have the sprint race on the Friday and then. But I think F1's a need to hype it up. But really, I don't think they've been. I guess Sky hype it. I don't think they've been hyping it as much as last season. I think last year was a lot worse for the way they're building it up. I don't think this season they have. I think it's because it's more normalized. But yeah, I think a lot of the kind of problems you're coming up with are not kind of a problem.
Honestly, anyone who agrees with me with the football thing about the 30-minute, 90-minute, just like follow me and DM me or something if you've not followed me already. Like honestly, I'll buy you with some flowers or a car. It's probably some flowers. Right.
I mean, surely. Also, you are right. I was wrong. It is Brazil, but I don't think that fits. It's the it's the same.
Wrong about this complete argument anyway.
Well, there we go. If you are, then abuse me. Comment abuse below on this video and at my Twitter at AdamDickinson01.
Don't do that.
Please.
Let's finish with something a bit more serious. We're both, I'm pretty sure, going to agree with this, Adam. It is the reports about some fan abuse, sexual harassment, apparently some racial and homophobic comments as well from people who attended the Austrian Grand Prix. F1 did put out a statement saying it's unacceptable, but Lewis Hamilton was asked about it in the press conference on Sunday, and he said statements and things like "we racers won" it's just words, and I think he's absolutely right. How many times have we seen a statement from F1 or a team or even a driver? Yeah, that's it. We don't hear anything afterwards. I could go out. In theory, I could disagree with I could be. I could have a certain point of view, let's say, and then I could just tweet something and it's fake. I don't actually mean that, but I'll just tweet it anyway, just to make, oh no, I'll get loads of likes, I'll get on followers, oh, Nigel's a good person. No, you should be doing something about it. That is, sorry, I kind of went off on a tangent there.
Yeah, you did a bit.
That's how I felt about this topic, from a wider perspective as well, for quite a few years. It is far too easy to go on social media and put out a statement. I would love to know the amount of drivers or people, even people that, if you're listening to this, have you actually talked about it with your friends or with your family or that kind of thing? Because I think it wouldn't, somewhere, of course, I know me and you've had these discussions, Adam, and so has Freddie and that kind of thing. But I honestly believe some people will put it on their story or tweet, but then they won't actually have that conversation in real life. And that's just a small thing. Having a conversation in real life, and that's where it's got to start. So that's my bit said.
I completely agree. I think you summed it up. I think just, with they're not F1 fans, or it's there's tribalism coming into the sport, and in some ways that's not bad. There's more interest in the sport, and that's a good thing. But just the way, don't bring just don't bring this into F1, and don't bring it into life in general. But it's not
stupid.
But F1 is something. It should be inclusive. It should be something that's on for everyone, no matter who you are, and it should be there that everyone can enjoy, and everyone can enjoy going to a race. And that's a huge thing to go to a Grand Prix, and to have that ruined by idiots is just really, really sad. And I hope this is isolated. I hope they clamp down on it. I think people. Circuits really need to take a lead on this and have better security or better ways of identifying what's happening with this, because some of the stories are just abhorrent. And I completely agree with you. It's not, to me, We Racers won, and everything that F1 puts out, it just feels like marketing. It's just
it is. To be honest, that's what inside of me. I know I didn't say this out when it happened. That is kind of what I thought. I just wasn't brave. I'll be honest, I wasn't brave enough to say it. It was like
no, it's. I just think it is. I think it's them saying what they think they need to say, to appeal to a section of fans. But at the same time, they, having sold out crowds, they're not complaining about that, and that's where the issue is. It's kind of putting money first and then kind of moral second. And I think F1, is no stranger to doing that. Hopefully now it can change, because we're kind of into a new era in the world where a lot of this stuff is being called out, in workplaces, in more areas of society, but there's still a long way to go. And I think F1's shown that it's got an even further way to go than kind of other areas of life. So hopefully that can change, but it's just really disappointing to hear.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is disappointing. Bit of sad, dull way to end the podcast, but that is all we have to have for this week. Me and Adam have filled a lot of time.
Yeah, it's been good.
Speaking, it has been one of our best two person podcast things, I think.
High praise indeed.
I'm just thinking, you and Freddie have never done one where it's just you two, have you? You've always had like a replacement for me on the 2 or 3 that I've missed. It's never just been you two, has it?
I feel like we might have done one.
I don't think you have.
We'll go back and we'll go
if
back.
If I am right, let's see how long that streak goes on.
Well, that'll be the first time for the podcast, so there we go. First time on this podcast, I should say. Nigel isn't always wrong.
Well, we will try and have a French Grand Prix preview next week. We are all very busy, but if not, we will be back to review the French Grand Prix. But of course, we will try to have a little preview as well and fill in with any news. So my thanks to Adam. My thanks to you for listening. Follow us on Twitter at WingingItF1, at Adam Dickinson01. I'm at Nigel C. Journo. Till next time, it's goodbye.
Bye.